The reality is dark triad traits are only pervade in Homo sapien males because women keep those
dudes.
men. There is
100%.
no argument against this.
So why is it negative? So why is it
because women don't like when Brock the bartender fucks them and doesn't call him the next day.
Women love narcissism.
Yes.
It's one of the three aspects of the dark triad.
That's correct, yeah.
Because narcissism, what's innate with an overt sense of confidence, which women are attracted to.
Yes.
Which is why the subjectivity of being attractive, I think, is probably secondary to the confidence that someone exudes. Because I know some fat, ugly, stinky dudes that have got some relatively good-looking women.
Yes.
Because they exude confidence.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing as well. Whenever I was talking about, I've had people come to my chat and just be like, Jake, I'm 5'4". I can't get a woman. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't get a woman not because you're 5'4", but because you have the confidence of a man that's 5'4".
Yeah.
And I've known men that are, great pickup artists. They've got a lot of women. I know a guy who's got a girlfriend who's way taller and way hotter than he is because he doesn't let his height get in the way of that kind of thing.
Confidence does go a long way.
Confidence is so much hotter than a guy looks.
Absolutely everything.
Sure, King.
I'm talking like.
But there is a difference between confidence and arrogance.
Yes,
which
arrogance makes you super attractive.
I'm gonna say arrogance isn't
really
bad.
Arrogance makes you super attractive.
But then eventually you get tired of the arrogance.
Eventually you get tired of the arrogance after you him 25 times.
Yeah.
Then you're tired of it.
I do have to
so
say arrogance.
Don't be arrogant. Listen, don't be arrogant.
Well,
don't be a narcissist.
I spoke about this on stream. Arrogance is actually one of the probably one of the greatest indicators of the longevity of a relationship, if on the condition that arrogance encompasses her as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women would assume that arrogance is probably very personal, it's very egocentric, it's very one person, and she's outside of this arrogance and she has to witness this. However, sometimes arrogance can actually absorb the paramour, so you become part of his arrogance. And
you're feeding into it.
Yeah,
I kind of like arrogance. To be honest.
Well,
I
like
know
that
why? Because he's
arrogant because he has you, and he's.
At the start, when I talk to someone, so to speak, it's a little bit arrogant to me. It's the chase.
Yeah.
Be a little bit unavailable for me.
Well, now you're describing game.
If a bit of arrogance for me, I'm intrigued.
It's the push and pull.
That for me is intrigue for me. No,
but
why is it that arrogance or things that you take actually accountability for seems to be a negative thing? When people need to take accountability, like let's say, yes, I'm arrogant. Yes, I'm self-centered. Yes, I'm a narcissist. Why does it always become a negative thing? Whereas it's like being something positive to what you own. It's like,
thank you. Thank you. You know, you just made my case because I have been saying this for forever. Anytime I see some kind of article or some kind of stupid ass tweet when people start talking about like the dark triad personality traits, I'm like, why the fuck are we calling them dark? Because clearly women get off of them. Clearly they've been passed down.
They're dark when they have them.
Through evolutionary history.
Triad?
Women have selected men for those traits. They must have a utility. They must be in some way.
Why is that negative?
Survival beneficial. Otherwise, people wouldn't have them today.
Human beings, if we are self-aware, truly self-aware, is that we need to recognize society deems us dark, right? Or wrong. Whereas like you're secure of yourself, so what?
Well, the dark triad is objectively dark.
Well,
okay, what is the dark triad?
Dark triad is narcissism, Machiavellianism, and sociopathy.
Psychopathy.
I mean, that's
the majority of it. The majority of the attraction to dark triad, the majority of it is narcissism. That when women say that they like those attributes. Here's the thing: regardless of what you think about dark triad traits, the reality is dark triad traits are only pervade in Homo sapien males because women keep those dudes. Men. There is
100%.
no argument against this.
So why is it negative?
Huh?
So why is it
because women don't like when Brock the bartender fucks them and doesn't call him the next day.
It shouldn't be negative though.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
So about 5 or 6 years ago, I never even heard the word narcissism.
Yes.
And I tell you right now, one of my most passionate relationships I had about 4 years ago, God bless him, was a narcissist, so to speak, whatever. It was so passionate, hot, and amazing, and we're great friends now. Still, I never heard the word until 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, the word is different from the
diagnosis. Does it go both ways?
For men and women? I think that it can be used good and bad. We have this such negative on it. We've all got a bit of ego. Ego can be good if you use good or
not narcissism.
But it's depending on how they use it. If they're going to cheat and lie,
but does it go both ways?
Okay,
does it go both ways?
Okay, but just real quick before we continue, we need to clarify narcissism here. So narcissism is not just an adjective for someone who's very self-centered. Narcissism is NPD. It's narcissistic personality disorder, and it comes with its own subset of symptoms that are represented.
Which is
why then people then perceive them as negative, because narcissistic personality disorder tends to come with, a sense of grandiosity, which, women find very attractive. It also then comes with a complete and utter lack of empathy and remorse, which also women find very attractive. But then that is what then starts to
It's the
cause
problem.
Yeah.
You cannot. It's like, while women find these men attractive, there is no functional society with these men in it. To a certain extent, I mean, obviously you have politicians and CEOs or narcissists, but for the most part, the majority of the human population cannot be sociopaths. If that is the case,
it's
then
7%.
Society breaks down at that.
But then
core.
why are people then, especially women? There's so many women in the. I say this with love again. So many women. I know everyone. I was a narcissist. Were they really narcissists or not?
No, it's just a fun word. September. It's a fun word they learned on TikTok.
And everybody, they have narcissistic traits, because if you're not a little cocky about yourself,
You would never cut into traffic if you weren't a little narcissistic.
What do you
anyone who's doing anyone who's in any YouTuber, any TikToker who is successful, they all have narcissistic traits. You know why? Because they care about themselves and they want to do better, and they're thinking about themselves.
Having narcissistic traits and being a narcissist are two different things.
Yeah,
though.
that's
Like,
correct.
I don't feel like it's a narcissistic
Go ahead.
trait.
I was going to say, like, when I first started writing, a lot of the stuff that was in my first book came out of conversations I had on online forums, right?
Is that the 2013 one, the restaurant?
The very first. Thank you. Yeah, available on Amazon. The thing is then it went to the blogs, and then I started building out blog essays and stuff based on all of the conversations that we had over the course of like about 10 or 12 years on the forums, right?
Yeah.
And then I had actually a woman come up to me and approach me online, anyways, and say her son could really use this blog or stuff that we were talking about on the blog, but he would never take it seriously unless I put it into a book form. And so when I decided I was going to actually write my very first book, I was like, I had to get over myself. I was like, do people really want to read this? Like, am I that guy? It was like imposter. It was like
imposter syndrome.
It was imposter syndrome, but it was also, and how I got over that is I realized, like, if you're going to put yourself out there, if you're going to be a public figure, if you're going to be an influencer, the people who don't get imposter syndrome, those are the guys you need to worry about. Yeah. It's the people who do get imposter syndrome. Because I was thinking, who wants to listen to what I have to say, right? And then I realized that, because of all the response,
have to consider the message.
And then so what I had to realize then is, like, you have to be conceited. You have to be somewhat conceited to say, I think I'm badass enough that people would want to buy this book. And sure as shit, it worked out for me. And the thing is now I know, and now I'm much more confident to go out there and write, 5 more books on top of that.
And that's embodying a narcissistic trait without being a narcissist.
Yeah. And it's a positive,
because
it's a positive.
I had something similar happen.
Tell me, Astrid, go.
Is it a narcissistic trait, or is it the actual believing yourself that society has not taught us?
I think I'm going to quote William Shakespeare really quick. There's in Henry V, what is it? Self-love is not so great a sin as self neglect is not so great a sin as self-love, right? And it's like, and I was like, yeah. So what are you going to do? Are you going to neglect yourself, or are you going to love you so much that you have, people will think you're prideful, you're arrogant, just because you're like, no, I'm going to write a book. That's what it's taking that narcissism and taking that there's just a little bit of conceit and saying, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to float this out and see how it works, right? And to get to that point, you have to get over yourself and say, other people want to listen to this. So it's, self-love is not so great a sin as self-neglect.
100%.
And speaking even further on narcissism there, it's notoriously difficult to get an accurate diagnosis on narcissism, because people who have NPD or narcissistic personality disorder very rarely ever check themselves in for psychiatric help because they have it.
It's usually a court order that causes them to go.
So it's very, very difficult to find them and nail them down. And even when you do, what they then start to do is affect their behavior so they don't come across as a narcissist. So what you need to remember is the difference between narcissistic tendencies and being a narcissist is how deliberate you are with your intentions.
What are you doing?
You could on purpose be like, okay, I need to be egotistical about this. I need to very purposefully put myself in the spotlight because the message I have is far larger than I am. A narcissist does not think like this.
Hey, for those of you who want to get educated on this subject, real simple, check out Dr. Martha Stout. It's a Sociopath Next Door. Her second book is called Surviving the Sociopath Next Door. There's another book called Confessions of a Sociopath, and there's another great book called Walking on Eggshells: Living with Somebody with Borderline Personality Disorder. And it actually goes over narcissism in those books. Read those 4 books, and you'll have a far clearer understand when you're dealing with some guy who just didn't want to settle down with you. He just didn't want to settle down. He likes to lots of women. He didn't want to settle down. That doesn't make him a narcissist.
No,
that doesn't make him a psychopath. But no, he's the one getting called a psychopath. That's the reason.
Unless they yell at you in public because they're insecure.
Of course, that's fine.
But then they
could also be insecure. That could also be the reason.
It's a big problem.
Guys,